to Sunny House, Florida, the best location in the great state that Ron DeSantis is the governor of. And with us today, we have a special guest. What is your name and what are you doing here, sir?
My name is Zach Vorhies. I'm known as the Google Whistleblower, and I'm in Miami right now, and you're in Miami, well, near it. And so we were like, let's talk about AI, Google, how searches are rigged and, the New World Order, how it's coming in.
Oh, we definitely know about the New World Order. So let's start. Tell people what your expertise is.
So I'm a software engineer,
Okay.
And I was a triple major in the university for mathematics, computer science, psychology.
So you do math, I do numerology. A little different.
A little different, yeah.
Gotcha.
And then I'm an addicted programmer. I just love programming, and I got my way.
You love it?
I love it. Yeah, it's all. I'll be at a party and I'll be thinking about like some algorithm that.
So instead of thinking about that broad over there with the C cup and nice little curves, you're thinking about programming.
I unfortunately prefer computers to people.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting.
Kind of a curse.
Well, that actually means you're really good at what you do.
Yeah.
Okay. You used to be a former liberal.
Libtard.
So you used to support Hillary Clinton?
I always hated Hillary Clinton.
Okay,
I detested her. Something about it.
So you used to be a Barack Obama supporter.
I was a Bill Clinton. Yeah, I used to be like, I went to Obama's inauguration in 2008.
I went to Trump's inauguration 2017.
There you go. Yeah.
One up to you.
Yeah.
When did basically the light bulbs go off that these people who are liberals are actually the enemy?
It was like I started to get inklings of it when I went to China to do I moved my manufacturing. Like for about 3 years, I was independent, making my own product with a startup as CEO, and tried to make the product in the United States. But unfortunately, our entire economic system has been imploded and deindustrialized. So I went to China to build it, and then as I started to
Beijing or Shanghai.
It wasn't Shanghai. It was it was 2 hours outside of there, in one place. And then the place where the textiles were manufactured was called, Xiamen.
Okay.
Xiamen was where we
How's
did.
your Chinese in Mandarin?
Sucks. I could say jigger, and that's about it.
Okay.
Jigger is, which is the most funniest word. It sounds like a bad word, but they pointed everything. They're like, jigger this, jigger that. And you're like, what? Oh, okay, it's fine.
People are probably saying your dog whistling right now.
Everything that is edible in China is so super hot. It blows my mind. Like you go to KFC and it's just like, I can't, like you get like a piece of chicken. It's just like fire in your mouth. I don't know how they do it. They can just tolerate hot food.
White people can't do it, can they?
We can't do it. We're cursed.
All right, my man. So let's get to the real nuts and bolts of it. You turned to basically the Republican side and Trump. What was the reason that happened?
Well, it was this clownish 2016 election. Like I thought that, elections were about
the election.
2016.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Right.
I thought we were talking about 220 for a second.
It was 2016, and I was like, why is everything so effing weird? And then I had this friend that was like, oh, everything's just a front for the banking cartel and they don't want Trump to win and because he's going to destroy the deep state. I was like, no way. But then like I went like off that conversation and I started to realize, well, that would actually explain like everything that's happening right now. Like I actually do think the whole thing's controlled because I saw what I thought was the left and the right like align against Trump. And so I was like, yeah, okay, everything is controlled by this cartel and Trump is an existential threat, or so I thought at the time. And so I was actually really happy that he won. I didn't think he was going to win, but then like to my surprise, he won in 2016.
I called it.
Yeah,
I called that one. So Trump's in the White House. What's going on in your mind?
I'm like, well, the left finally lost a culture war. Thank God. And maybe we can get, I don't know, some reindustrialization in the United States, because as someone that was manufacturing in China, I really wanted to desperately manufacture any product in America. And so I was really hoping that he would provide the infrastructure necessary to bring that all back, put some taxes on China, reduce the taxes. Yeah. And so I was really stoked. I was really stoked for Trump. I thought he was going to turn the whole ship around. But then, unfortunately, things didn't really pan out that way, did it?
No, because the deep state kneecapped his presidency. First with Russia, then with fake investigation after investigation, and then they finally election from him in 2020. Do you have any doubt in your mind that the election was?
No, the whole thing was. I was like working with operatives trying to expose this kind of stuff. I destroyed my relationship with my own family because like half of them are libtarded, and so they believe whatever it is that the media is saying, and I'm trying to like give them this information, and they're like rejecting me. And how could you even think that? That's all misinformation. I'm like, what? Who's pushing this misinformation? And so I've paid a huge price to understand the truth and try to plainly speak what is actually happening.
I remember 216 very well. I was telling husbands, if your wife plans to cancel out your vote by voting for Hillary Clinton, divorce her. Straight up divorce her. And I'm happy to say a couple of people listened to me, remarried, found much better wives who are much more conservative and submissive, and they're much happier. Funny how that works.
Before 2016, I could understand if you were a leftist, like I was a leftist, but the thing is that they pushed it too hard, and Clown World just exposed itself too much. And
so what was the breaking point for you as a leftist? What was too far for you?
When I saw Google censor the word kafefe and delete it out of their Arabic translation dictionary.
Kafefe?
Kafefe.
What is that?
Remember the word kafefe? And
no.
It was like a thing where like Trump was like, so he went to Saudi Arabia and he came back and he was like, despite the negative constant press, kafefe. And the whole media was like, what does kafefe mean? He's crazy, da da da. And then they actually tried to invoke the 25th Amendment. Well, it turns out that it was like some sort of ancient Arabic word for we will stand up to the fallen, right? And so what they did is that's my phone, by the way.
Yeah, turn that off.
Yeah, sorry about that. And so what happened is that the New York Times came out with a hit piece on June 1st that said that this word is nonsense and da-da-da. We asked one of our experts who turned out to be one of the contractors of the New York Times, so they gave him a rigged answer. And so from this article, Google ingested it and made a design document to delete this word out of their translation dictionary. And
that was the straw that broke the camel's back with you.
That was like, okay, I'm part of something wicked and evil, and there's a conspiracy here. Oh, yeah, and then they tried to use the 25th Amendment using this thing of, well, Trump's tweeting crazy nonsense, so he's incapacitated. Let's pull him out of the presidency. And I was just like, okay, now I'm part of this.
But let's not pull Biden, who's falling over, who mumbles words. He's completely fine. Let's go after Trump, though. This is a joke, man. The left is a joke. Anyone who supports the left is a joke. And if you actually voted for Joe Biden, and not one of those fake paper ballots, if you actually voted for this man, you are a clear and present danger to the United States because you reproduce kids who might be just as stupid as you are.
Right.
Anyways, moving on. What are you known for? What did you get your name for yourself for?
Well, I was relatively unknown and obscure until I blew the whistle on Google in 2019 through Project Veritas.
Okay, so tell us about that from start to finish. How did this start in 2019 and how'd you pull it off?
Well, I was trying to figure out what Google meant through their internal communications to us employees by saying they're using machine learning algorithms to censor fake news, right? They were obsessed with fake news after the whole Gate thing came out.
Oh, is that fake news?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So
almost fake.
Right. And so they're like, how do we stop this dangerous misinformation? And so I started going through and realizing that they actually had like AI ethicists that were writing a lot about fake news and censoring information. I said, well, if they got all these design documents, then what's going to be executing this decision of what is fake news and what is not fake news, right? Because if you're going to say, well, this is fake news and this is not, then what are you going to do to separate that out of your search feed?
Basically, you are asking for what is determining what is fake news and what isn't, correct?
Right. Well, the executor, like they had already made the decision that they were going to classify, but what was actually going to execute that classification to block your search results? And so I thought that it was going to be Project Dragonfly, because that's what the media was talking about. Oh, Project Dragonfly, Google's going to release it on the Chinese, and and so turns out that was like a disinfo story. There was nothing about Project Dragonfly on the inside of Google, but instead I found, ready for this? Machine learning fairness.
Explain what machine learning fairness is.
Machine learning fairness is the merging of artificial intelligence with critical race theory. It's this.
Oh.
Yeah.
So basically, white man bad.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So we basically have an AI system that's been essentially brainwashed with critical race theory. So it doesn't say anything about 72% of black kids being raised by single mothers, and that's the leading cause of poverty. Doesn't say anything about that, does it?
Right. Well, they do actually. Here's the thing.
Let's hear it.
You ready for this? So what it said was in these documents surrounding this is about the definition of algorithmic unfairness, which is if something were true, could it still be classified as algorithmically unfair? And Google's answer to that was yes. And here's an example.
Wow.
They said, let's say that someone was searching for images of CEOs and the majority of pictures that came back showed male CEOs. They said that even if that reflected current reality, it could still be classified as algorithmic unfairness and subject to correction via product intervention.
So basically, in layman's terms, it doesn't matter if it's true, it could still be censored.
That's right.
Okay. And did they give an explanation for that, or is it just based off critical race theory?
I mean, well, their justification was that they were trying to create a fair and more equitable space on the internet.
That sounds like communism, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's Marxism. It's
I see.
Cultural Marxism pushed in through the algorithms.
I see. And you were working at Google for a while. When did you see this stuff really start hitting home?
First inkling of it was 1 week after Trump got elected with a TGIF that we had, which is our communication with the C-level executives, and that they said that the biggest accomplishment that they had was using AI to filter fake news. And I was like, wait a minute, but it really didn't wrap up until 2017. They were planning it from November all the way to December, and then starting in January, they started to implement this stuff, and then it just started to accelerate across all their different products.
I see. So let's go to Hunter Biden's laptop story.
Let's do it.
Obviously, that's true. Now it's been proven true. Back in 2020, they were basically covering the story up. Tell us what Google was doing.
Yeah. So Google started a wave of political cleansings on their social media platform, YouTube. And they had about 3. And I was, at this time, I didn't want to work for the company. I was dreading every single day, but Project Veritas hadn't gotten back to me for almost a year and a half about what they were doing with my information that I delivered.
A year and a half?
Yeah, a year and a half.
Yo, Keith, what's going on here, man?
Well, no. Get this. The reason why they didn't tell me was because they had set up a sting operation on one of the AI directors, Jen Janai, for I think it's trust and safety. And so they didn't want to blow up their operation. And
but hold on, a year and a half, the whole damn information might change after a year and a half.
Yeah, but it got really bad. By the time 2019 had arrived, everything was ramping up to 11. And so, yeah, anyways, that was 2019. And then, by the time, then the got released, so they entered in more censorship. Obviously, I can't do anything anymore because I'm not part of the company. But what happened was anyone that talked about the Hunter Biden laptop in October of 2020, gone. Right? It was a purging. There was 30 high-level channels that were purged. Some of their biggest news and political commentators. And what I tried to do is I tried to get an emergency injunction. I launched a legal fund called punchgoogle.com. And we were able to generate $145,000 that we turned around and used to try to get an emergency injunction and get all these people back. Unfortunately, there's a rigged system with the stuff. We have to sue them in California based on the terms of service. And so the forum selection clause kicked in. We had to go through I think it was a federal court or a state court. I can't remember which court we took it through. But they were like, you guys aren't probably going to prevail. So
isn't that something?
Yeah.
Because of the terms and clause, if you want to go after Google, if you want to go after Facebook, Twitter, well, not Twitter anymore, but before, you have to go sue them all in California.
Yeah.
And the liberal California court system is going to protect them. This is kangaroo court shit.
Yeah. And the thing is that the way to undo this whole mess is that Congress people need to get together and craft out a special carve out to nullify the forum selection clause and say it doesn't matter if you're suing big tech. They cannot use that argument. We're going to keep it in
what would be the drawbacks of that?
There's no drawback. No.
Hold on. If there's some positive, there's probably some negative. The law was made for a reason. So what would be the drawbacks?
No, it's the Aegis shield of big tech. Like I'm talking about shattering the Aegis shield. There's no drawbacks. It's like you're like we're going to nullify the forum selection clause for Google, Facebook, Twitter.
Okay.
And if you are living in Florida and you're running a campaign and YouTube says actually we're just going to remove all your social medias, then you're going to be able to sue them in your native court. And Google can't move it to their rigged court in San Francisco or LA or one of the other district courts.
That's most likely not going to pass Congress.
No, it's a state level.
The state level?
It's a state level. All the rights.
How can you do that if the laws are federal? How can you pass state level laws to supersede federal laws?
It's not a federal law. It's a terms of service. There's
terms
no
of
law.
service. So again, I'm ignorant here, so people understand. Yeah. I'm the ignorant one here. So if all the terms of service are basically with California, the state law?
It's not even a law. There's no law. It's contract law where you use the service and they say if you use YouTube as a content producer, you have to sue us in California. Well, if Florida or even Miami, Dade County makes a law says we're going to nullify the forum selection clause, then you go and sue them in a court, and the judge is like, well, there's this law in this book that says...
There's over 30 Republican, basically conservative legislatures in the United States of America. How come none of them have done this?
I wish that I had done a bigger campaign. I've reached out to a senator in Tennessee. They didn't get back to me. I reached out to one in St. Augustine.
Let's say I can reach out to these Congress people. I can reach out to senators.
Yeah.
What would you like me to tell them in your own words?
You need to nullify the forum selection clause for big tech platforms for your county.
Is there any laws right now that protect them, or is that just terms of service clause?
Just terms of service. There's no
federal laws, no state laws.
No.
Okay. So if even at someone at a city level does something like that.
Yeah. It's the whole Achilles heel is hanging by a thread.
So you're telling me this can be done in any city in America, any state in America, and no one has done it yet?
No one has done it. 0 people have nullified the forum selection clause of big tech.
If it's so easy, I don't understand why people wouldn't have done it yet. There has to be some pushback.
No one knows about it. I've been saying it on a few podcasts.
You were on what's his name? Tim Pool, right?
Yeah, I didn't even say it there.
Okay, yeah.
We never even got to it. I should have been talking about it.
Okay, so again, say in that camera right there, exactly. Imagine you're talking to a senator, Congress people, and I assure you, some of them are going to listen. Tell them step for step what you think needs to be done.
Okay, if you're a congressperson, you need to create a very simple law that says that the forum selection clause for any company that has a social media presence on the internet, like you can put in some special carve outs, like over 100,000 employees or whatever, that your citizens in your county or city have the right to sue. Google, Facebook, Twitter. Their forum selection clause, which is only part of the terms of service. There's no federal law that says that they get that right. You basically say the forum selection clause is null and void in my city or county, right? Think what kind of a win that's going to be for your constituents. They're going to be like, that's great. This guy, this congressperson is, got my interest in mind. And guess what? Google's going to think twice about, censoring you because you're going to be a Republican on the campaign trail, because they know that they're going to have to fight this battle in a court system that's not California, right?
I get it. I get what
That's
you're
it.
saying. I get what you're saying. It just boggles my mind if what you're saying is true and this is this easy, that no one's ever done it before. It just boggles my mind.
It's just that easy. And I hope that right now, by spreading this, we can
don't
push
worry.
this out.
I know senators, I know a couple Congress people. I'll make sure they get a hold of this. If they can do anything with this, if it's as easy as you say it is, I don't see why they wouldn't
sure,
do
there's
it.
going to be there are going to be challenges like, oh, well, you're targeting big tech and this isn't fair.
cares?
Da, da, da. Yeah, there's
cares?
there's going to be minor challenges.
It doesn't matter if all it takes is a city legislature to say, oh, we're going to supersede this terms of service clause for a company over 100K. It could happen in any Republican-backed city,
right?
Any suburb. So all it has to start is one place, and then you have that snowball effect. Boom, boom, boom. So again, if that's what it takes, I'm more than happy to reach out to a few people and get that done.
Let's do it.
We'll see. And is this something that I can give people your number and you can help them along?
Yes, I'm gonna email. Let's do it. Okay. I will do all the writing for them that they need to draft it. You know, I'll get help from a lawyer. Like, we need this because it's like the weak spot in the whole, giant.
Okay. I will see what I can do. Let's go back a little bit to 2019. If they were doing all this garbage back then, what the hell do you think they're doing now?
Oh, they're kind of screwed. All right. So what happened was, look, Eric Schmidt built Google. And he built it as this transparent company because he's like, we're not going to do anything wrong. So we're going to take the benefits of transparency across teams. Mm-hmm. And so then when he left, and the new guy, Sundar Pichai, came in, basically they started turning towards the dark side, but they left all the transparency in. And so that's how I was able to hit them really hard, because I could just, as a full-time employee without special access, see all their evil plans. So what's happened since then is that everything's tightly locked down. They're treating everything like the CIA, shutting down political discussions. They don't want anything getting out. And so, yes.
Has Twitter changed at least?
Elon Musk bought it, right?
Of course.
And all the things getting disclosed.
So is Google, Facebook worse than ever?
I think the peak madness was 2020, but now they're kind of doing this slow rollout of, well, actually, we were being lied to by the establishment. Like, Mark Zuckerberg came out and was like, oh, well, it turns out they were wrong, and that caused
they were wrong.
Yeah, I know.
Did his opinion evolve? Remember, these people are never wrong. Their opinions always evolve.
Well, the science changed.
Of course. Oh, that's what
happened.
They trusted the science, and the science changed. Let's go back. I know you weren't,
but it's going to get worse. Like, once the election hits, it's all a bunch of lies about how they're sorry. They're going to do the exact same thing, but more.
I had a podcast with Malik Obama, and that podcast was taken down on YouTube for so-called election conspiracy. Yet, they overturned those rules last week. So now you can talk about 2020 election. And this is where I give companies like Rumble, like Kick, a lot of basic gratitude, because they're the ones who forced YouTube to turn around, because their revenue's down 3%.
Yeah.
So that's how you hit these punks, right in the pocketbook. Let's go start with, that was the biggest psyop in world history, correct?
Yes.
And are you, sir?
No.
Okay. Did you ever consider once getting?
No, I knew that. I've been trying to warn everybody in my family and friends not to get this is a weapon. You don't know what's going to happen. It's an experimental mRNA.
I think we know what's going to happen at the end. I think that's the problem. We all know what's going to happen. I was just telling you off camera. I think it was 2000. No, this maybe a month ago. This one male person told, it was on some YouTube clip. She says she's been, handing out mail for 20 years. About 2 people die on average for the past 20 years. This year, 19 have died. So again, you have 19. That's almost a 1,000% increase. People are dropping, but the news doesn't want to cover it. You want a job? People say they can't find a job. Go to a morgue. They're definitely hiring. They are definitely hiring. Go to these insurance agencies that are covering up all of these debts. You know, people wonder why there's so many help wanted signs. Maybe there's just not the same amount of people.
I know. That's what I wonder too.
I mean, it does kind of make sense, right? People are dying. They want to cover it up. If people are dying and cover up, what was the number one sign you might see? Help wanted signs.
Right.
Because people aren't there for the jobs. All right, my friend.
I do want to say that whenever I go to a red state, the amount of death is super high. And in San Francisco, I haven't noticed that same thing. And so there's this theory that they sent a bunch of bad batches to the red states. So.
It's not theory. Obviously, not every is equal. And, you know, personally, there was 3 in America, the Pfizer, the and the Johnson Johnson. Now, they pulled the Johnson Johnson right away because it was 2 shots. Personally, the reason I think they pulled it was it wasn't enough people.
Right.
And, you know, then they got to say it's a murderer, and they pulled it, and so everyone get the murder and the fire. I think the Pfizer is kept in conditions below 200 Fahrenheit. What kind of poison do you have to keep in the machine that has to be below 200 Fahrenheit?
Right. I feel that there's some sort of trick that they're doing where it's like, oh, we didn't know that if it spoiled that it would turn into something actually really sick. And so I feel like there's some sort of trap in there that they're going to say. It's like, oh, we didn't know that this was going to happen. And that's the reason why they turned out to be so deadly.
And what's the reason they gave it to 5-6-year-old kids? Because no kid from 5-6-year-old died from. So why are they giving all these kids vaccines?
It's a depopulation agenda. They want to kill a lot of us. It's been in their plans. I mean, it's like, think of the leftists. They're like, how many times have you heard a leftist saying, oh, we're a cancer on the planet. We all deserve to die. It's like, well, you know, they think that way for a reason. And now that this is happening, you know, they're, I think on some level, okay with it.
You know, when I start looking at the deaths, I think I understand exactly what's going on. If you have a bad heart and say that you probably would have got a heart attack in 5 years and you got you'll probably die within 2-3. If you have a bad, liver and you're supposed to live for another 5 years, you'll probably die for another 2-3.
Yeah.
I think, and what happens is when these people die, oh, like, look, it was a stroke. Oh,
right.
Look, it was a heart attack. Nothing about the listen, I do have one piece of good news for you. I don't think the was as effective as they thought it'd be, because if it was, they wouldn't need all these boosters. So I think some people's body is so resilient, they could actually probably fight off and that's why they kept giving people. I know this one guy who got, but he didn't die until he got boosted.
Yeah. Yeah. It accumulates, right? I mean, they're hitting you with spike protein antibodies. It's just like, you know, over and over and over again. It's like, what do they expect to see? Like, they're literally turning you into a spike protein factory, and your body is supposed to get antibodies for these spike proteins, which are being expressed all over your body. Like, it's mind blowing that everyone just went along with it. Like, it's just, as a rational person and a scientist, I could just sit there and connect it. Like, the dots weren't even far apart. It's like, they're literally, like, if you had a tank, if you were like giving for a tank, you'd be like, well, let's use the hull or the wheels, right? You wouldn't use the fucking ammo, right? It's like, let's inject people with the fucking ammo and trust that everything's going to work out. Like, how are people so stupid that they could take that?
You were once a liberal, though.
Yeah, when Clown World hadn't come into full bloom, right? At least I can forgive myself for believing the great lie when it was still, you know, convincing.
I was never a liberal, so I can't speak on that. But I do enjoy when I see people evolve, and obviously that's what actually happened. You evolved from being a liberal to a conservative, and that's pretty much what happens in society. They understand that people sooner or later wake up, and that's why they indoctrinate the young. Because for everyone who gets out their liberal trance, they're going to indoctrinate 2 more.
Right.
This is why they always want open borders, because they want to change the demographics of this country to make sure the Democrats stay in power. And people who say votes don't matter, you know, yeah, if it's a close election, they can steal it. But if it's a landslide, they can't steal shit. if you guys think votes don't matter, there's a reason they have all these immigrants coming in. They want to change the demographics of the voting.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, Florida and Texas, probably the two last safe havens in the United States of America. I mean, California's fallen, New York's fallen a long time ago, Illinois is done. There's some conservative places in Ohio and Indiana, but small population centers. Right. Besides Florida and Texas, I think those are pretty much the only conservative bastions where there's economic power, because most other conservative places, they don't really have any economic power.
Right.
Let me ask you this. Knowing what you knew about the leftists who were in Google, do you think there's any hope that, they'll be pushed too far and they'll finally wake up? These are people you used to work for.
Look, I would separate leftists at Google into two categories. There were sort of like the liberals that were like, what's going on here? But everyone's sort of going along with it. So I'm just going to keep my head down and go along with it too.
So basically cowards.
And then there were people that were fully bought into the narrative. And it was funny because some of the smartest people were some of those that bought into the narrative the most, which is the most contradicting thing ever. It's like, how could you be so smart, but be psyoped by this utter clown world BS? But that's the way that it was. And so the problem is that the most radical elements of the company were the community. And if you want to know who brought in the censorship, it was the community.
The community inside Google is the ones that brought in the censorship?
Yes, every single freaking TGIF.
Get these ill people out of society. If you want to cut off your dick, that's your business. But you have no business being around other people and putting your political views on. I don't understand why people put up with this crap. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. And I'm not saying do anything drastic that's illegal. Make sure they don't have any jobs. Make sure they can't do any damage, because this is all they do. They want to come in. They want to spread their political nonsense. And they basically want to legalize. When's the pee going to get legalized?
I do want to come in defense a little bit to the judge. Look, not every one of them is bad. Most of them are actually good. The problem is that there's a higher propensity.
You're the one who just said they're the ones who are doing this
stuff.
Well,
they were selected, right? Because they're so you have a spread. Like, look, there's a lot of illness in the community, but some of them are just absolute brainwashed totalitarians. And they're low status males in the society that get boosted up, and they know that as long as they go along with the same.
Say it again. Say what you said again. Low status
males in society that all of a sudden get boosted because of their job. And now if they lose that job, they lose their status. Okay? And so they're going to go along with whatever narrative is pushed out in front of them. And guess what? They are pushed into positions of power. And they're like, well, this is the recommendation of our employees. Right? No, they're being put there so that they can push this thing, and then they use them as the shield. So when you criticize it, it's just like, oh, you hate like people or whatever. Right?
I don't hate ill people. I just don't think they should be making decisions.
Right. And they make great programmers. Here's the funny thing about genderism is that it pretty much leaves the person intellectually intact. They just have this obsessive quality about them, and they can make really good engineers. They've got this obsessive quality about them and a streak of narcissism where they can't stop thinking about themselves and being victimized by their biology, by society, and as a result of that, insane when it comes to making cultural decisions that affect you and me.
So again, they shouldn't be anywhere near that place.
They shouldn't be near any center that is involved in political or cultural discussions about where our society
What
could
percentage of Google staff was?
I would say probably about like 3%, but that didn't stop us from having.
What about actual?
Oh, it's probably higher, like 10.
10%.
They called them gigglers.
They call them
gigglers.
Gigglers. Okay.
That's Google, but gigglers.
I gotcha. And you had a lot of relationships with these people?
By 2017, I kind of tried to avoid them because I didn't know whether they were going to hate me secretly. Like I came out to a few of my friends within Google. You know, I was like, well, I'm a conservative.
You're a conservative? Oh, you came out. Is that what it means coming out the closet over there?
Yeah.
You're conservative, not gay.
And the first time I told someone that I was conservative, he immediately hated me. And he tried to fight me by like, oh, let's go wrestle. And I was just like, no.
Want to go wrestle you?
No, I wasn't advanced. He was just this guy that was just really indoctrinated for various reasons I won't go into. He wanted to wrestle me to kick my ass because he was so pissed at Trump and everything else. And it's just like, well, and he was like, we were friends up until that point. We had never talked politics. And like the one time that I did, all of a sudden he was like my mortal enemy. I'm just like,
gotcha.
Whoa. Right. So that's
hate strong with that one.
Hate strong with that one. The weirdest part about Google was surviving a mass attack in April of 2018.
Tell us about it.
It's going to be really weird. You want to hear it?
All right, give us the cliff notes.
Okay, so 2018, the fire alarm gets pulled, and I was into conspiracies at that time. I was like, wouldn't this be funny if it was a flag attack? So I grab my electric skateboard, I go out the back, I start going down the hill, and then I get to the corner at the patio where we usually have lunch. And I would have been there that day, except if I hadn't skipped lunch. Anyways, there's a guy lying on his back, out his chest. And I was like, I didn't realize that it was blood. And I was like, what's going on?
You must have been in shock.
Yeah, had a slight 5 o'clock shadow. Anyways, long story short, so there's a mass of people coming down, and I'm like, active, because a cop had just busted through one of the doors with a assault rifle. And so as I'm going away, everyone starts running towards the fence. I leave, and there's news media. No one else is going to talk to the news media. I've been on TV a bunch of times, America's Greatest Makers reality TV show. You know, I'm kind of a boisterous guy. So I'm like, yeah, I'll talk to you guys about what happened. I said, yeah, there was a man. And they're like, oh, there was two. And I didn't really understand what they were saying, but the media had already released the story that the was a woman. But guess what? The was a vestite. Okay.
So when I said with a gun starts shooting people, right? Isn't rocket science.
But here's the weird part. To this day, we still have no idea who the 3 victims were. And I've looked. And I've been like, well, they should have released this information by now. But no.
Kind of like the shooting. They don't know what's going on, right?
We don't know what's going on. I don't know how they could keep it secret. Like, how could they keep it secret? Like, YouTube isn't a big campus. There's only 4 buildings. It's just like, oh, it was like Marjorie over in accounting that was shot, and Mikey over in, the software engineering department. But we never found out who got
April 3rd, 2018, and approximately 12:46 p.m.
Yep, which is usually when I go to lunch. So gotcha. I skipped it that day. Anyways, yeah. So we never knew who it was that got shot. No fatalities. And when I looked at the research, I did some research at who this was and who their parents were. It turns out that their dad worked for the IRNA, if you could believe it. And now it's scrubbed. You can't find all this in this information out. So I think
how easy is to scrub someone from Google?
Oh, they write a filter, and it just goes in, and it's like when information goes through, it's like, does this pass the filter? Nope. Throw it into the garbage, and you never see it.
Gotcha.
So they scrub it overnight.
I see. Have you seen instances of black people being labeled white supremacists?
At Google? I've never seen it within Google.
I'm just curious. Okay. I'm going to ask you one final question. I want your straight up answer. No bullshit.
All right, let's do it.
Is Terminator going to happen?
Yeah, but not in the way that the movie happened.
Well, tell us, are there going to be advanced machines hunting us down at some point? You know better than most.
Look, they're going to give us personal assistance, and they're going to be our friend, but inside there's going to be a kill code. And then when they want to do their own
you go. So what we're going to be told is the beta males are going to get a nice looking woman robot who they can have sex with sometimes. The women are going to get some bodyguard who's going to be their maid and all this, clean their room. And then one day, kill code. They're all dead.
It's not that hard. If you have one assistant per person on the entire planet, then if you tell all the robots at the same time to kill, they'll just pull out their gun, blast the person pretty much at the same time because they're always around them, and then game over. Most of the population is dead. Clean, costs, under budget.
Back in Egyptian days, they used to have a lynx cat. It was a law that every Egyptian citizen had to have a lynx cat. And this lynx cat could see people's auras. That's what it did. And it was never loyal to the family. It was only loyal to the state. So what would happen is this lynx cat would go into the family's house, and if it saw their auras were off and they were planning rebellion, it would go tell the authorities, and those people are dead.
What do you mean it would go tell the? How would it do that?
It would walk out the house and go tell the authorities basically that these people are plotting against you, and then people will go kill them. So again, what I'm basically trying to tell you is, today in the future, you just say the possibility where we have technology where robots in the house.
Yeah.
Back in the day, the Egyptians had cats called lynx in the house, the same way, they would kill the mouse and do whatever, but they were never loyal to the owner.
Right.
They're only loyal to the state.
That's
exactly what happened. So it's interesting to see how history is going to repeat.
It's going to rhyme. Yeah.
Hopefully, we don't see that timeline. Anyways, my friend, how do people reach you? How do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, if you guys want to see how the sausage is made with all of the Google censorship, go to my website, zachvorhies.com. If you want to follow me and see intel drops, go to my Twitter account, twitter.com/perpetualmaniac. Hopefully, you'll leave it as a link, or you can just search my name, Zach Vorhies, on Twitter, and just join up there and see what I'm posting. I'm not trying to sell anything. I just want to give you guys good
This is your
information.
time to actually put out so people actually know how to reach you.
Oh, and there's one last thing. When all the censorship came, I built a website that aggregates all of your favorite content creators. You'll be on there pretty soon. It's called blast.video. It's literally the best place for news and opinion on the internet. It should be the number one thing, should be above Rumble, but I'm not part of the establishment. So I'm just going to be on the little niche on the internet, and now you guys know that that's the best place.
Well, Rumble was established because the Tates knew that they would get suspended off media, so that was their plan B. As soon as all that happened, bring everyone to Rumble. So that was all set up from the very beginning.
Right. But see, I'm better than Rumble because I pull from Rumble. See, I pull from YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, Brighteon, Gab TV, all these things, Spotify. So it's it's an aggregator, like a search engine.
Okay.
But you get a daily feed of everything.
People got it. Anyways, this has been a very interesting talk. I appreciate you coming by and educating the audience. And again, this has been the GG33 production. We're out.